Mr. Chamy is away from the city today, so he is not joining us tonight. On va commencer. Bienvenue tout le monde aux séances ordinaires du Conseil municipal de la ville de Westmount pour lundi, le 19 juin 2023. Welcome everybody to the regular municipal council meeting of the city of Westmount for Monday, June 19th, 2023. We have some people here in the room with us. I do not believe we have any questions that were submitted online today, mais on va commencer avec les rapports du Conseil, and then I'm going to give an update on the issue of the strike in the city. But I'll begin with councillors' reports. I'll start with District 1 with Councillor D'Amico.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to announce that today I will be depositing the audited financial statements of the city for the 2022 year.
Thank you very much. Madame Roux?
Yes. Hello, good evening. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I usually talk about things pertaining to my commissionership, but tonight there's also things about my district. So as people in District 2 know, and other districts also, Grosvenor between Westmount Avenue and the Boulevard is being completely redone, and there will be an information session on June 29th at 6 p.m. on Zoom. Residents on Grosvenor and in the surrounding areas all got these invitation cards last week that were distributed by hand to them. So hope to see many of you there. And there will be city representatives, engineering, traffic, bunch of people, myself, Antonio, Conrad, will all be there. So look forward to seeing many of you. Yes, so we went, if you want me to precise, Victoria, Grosvenor, Roslyn, Lansdowne, between Côte Saint-Antoine and the Boulevard, both sides of the Boulevard, and then Grosvenor from the Boulevard to Sunnyside have been invited. They've all gotten this card. Sur une autre note, je veux vous dire que c'est pas de gaieté de cœur qu'on a dû annuler les fêtes de la Saint-Jean-Baptiste qui étaient prévues pour le 23 juin prochain. Comme vous le savez, on va avoir une grève d'école bleue qui va commencer jeudi. Et le 22, il y a des installations pour les festivités on a besoin de connaissances spécifiques pour le faire, pour que ça soit sécuritaire, et aussi dévoués nos cadres sont-ils pour essayer de prendre la relève et que les citoyens soient le moins affectés possible pendant la grève. Il y a des choses qui doivent être faites selon les règles de l'art, et ça, ils ne sont pas capables de le faire et c'est compréhensible et on ne voudrait surtout pas qu'il y ait d'accident. Alors, on a pensé que c'était mieux pour tout le monde et que, aussi dommage cela soit-il, que les gens comprendraient le bien fondé de la décision. Voilà. Alors, ça, c'est pour les fêtes de la Saint-Jean-Baptiste. And then I'd like to remind everyone that the summer schedule started for the library and the Westmount Conservatory on July 18th, so on June 18th. So from June 18th until September 3rd inclusively, it will be closed on Sunday. I would like to congratulate all the winners from the McIntyre writing competition. It was a beautiful event. We love everything that happens in the city, but we do have a sweet spot for that one to see the pride of the children, the pride of the parents. It's quite something. And the hours that the volunteers put in there, the judges, the chief judge, and I'll take the opportunity to thank Rosalind Davis, who is stepping down as chief judge, for the many years and many hours that she put in making this competition a success. So thank you to everyone who put in hours. There's this TD summer reading program that is starting. La bibliothèque des semences. Alors, vous pouvez emprunter des semences en présentant votre carte de bibliothèque au comptoir de prêt. Choisissez parmi une sélection de légumes, de fines herbes et de fleurs. There's going to be a great concert on June 20th, so that's tomorrow. So, Archetype Trad, so it's at Victoria Hall at 2 p.m., and it will be exploring traditional music from Quebec to Newfoundland and Labrador. Also exciting, it's going to be the library's 125th this year. So it's a teaser for the 125th next year.
124th.
124th this year. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with numbers. 124th this year, teaser for the 125th next year. You're invited at 3:30 at the gallery at Victoria Hall this Tuesday for some cake and some tea to celebrate the 124th. And finally, un avant-goût with the Summer Film Club has a whole bunch of great movies going on this summer. July 4th, Rebel Without a Cause. July 11th, Woman Talking. July 18th, My Old School. July 25th, I Love You Again. Anyways, I had a lot to say, so I'm going a little quickly, but please go on our website and see all the great things that are being put together for residents. Thank you, and I guess it's have a great summer at this point.
Thank you, Councillor Roux. Councillor Gallery, I think, also has an update.
Good evening, everyone. I just have a quick update. Regrettably, we also have to, for similar reasons as explained by Councillor Roux, we must cancel our Canada Day festivities that were scheduled to take place July 1st at the Rec Center at the pool. We have a cake and lots of fun that afternoon, but for reasons already explained, and the mayor will further explain, it will not proceed. So we look forward to celebrating at the pool at another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Aronson, anything tonight?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One quick announcement for those who have not already seen so. The street festival for Victoria Village regrettably could not happen this past weekend due to poor weather and has been moved and rescheduled to the 21st through 23rd of July. And so mark your calendars now to make sure that you don't forget this wonderful event will be happening, and come out please to support the Merchants Association and all of the other people who make their living along and near Victoria Village. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kez, do you have any updates? Okay, I do have an update on the strike that is upcoming in the city. I have two updates I'll give. I'll give one also on an agreement that we're going to start with Marianopolis. But I will do that after this one. I just want to address an important matter concerning our blue-collar workers in Westmount. Unfortunately, we have to announce that there is an upcoming strike set to start on June 22nd. This work stoppage will regrettably impact certain services, but rest assured we will do everything in our power to minimize the inconvenience for our residents, ensuring essential services like garbage, recycling, and compost collection will continue without interruption, and the pool and the WRC will remain open. Dans cette négociation, les syndicats des cols bleus regroupés de Montréal, section locale 301, qui représente nos cols bleus, est dans son rôle et défend les intérêts de ses membres. C'est un jour pour lequel je les plus profond respect, mais, ceci étant dit, cette situation est déjà assez complexe et pénible. Je voudrais donc dire quelques mots afin de rétablir certains faits. Tout d'abord, la Ville est restée totalement ouverte et disponible pour des négociations. Nous avons pris contact avec le syndicat bien avant l'expiration de la convention collective précédente, montrant ainsi notre volonté de trouver une solution qui profite aux deux parties. Nous avons rencontré des difficultés tout au long du processus, notamment des changements au sein du comité de négociation du syndicat et des conflits de calendrier. Mais nous sommes toujours restés déterminés à mener à bien ces négociations. I want to address a concerning claim that has been made regarding attempts to influence our blue-collar workers unfairly. Let me be unequivocal on this. Neither the Council nor the administration supports or condones such acts. We firmly condemn any interference that undermines the integrity and peaceful nature of these negotiations. Our goal is to foster an environment of respect, creativity, and consensus in full compliance with the laws that govern us. So we should, I just want to address the notion that we seek to impoverish our blue-collar workers as well. So if you were at the last council meeting, that was an issue that was raised by some of the members of the 301. This narrative propagated by the union is unfounded. It's important to understand that when comparing our workers' salaries with those of other municipalities, the union fails to mention that it is comparing Westmount's 2019 salaries with the new salaries of other municipalities that have adopted their collective agreements after 2020. The pay gap is mainly due to the protracted negotiations with the union over the past 3 years. Our intention is not to maintain below average wages, but to achieve a fair agreement that restores parity with the wages of blue-collar workers in the Montreal metropolitan area. Our commitment lies in securing a fair contract with our employees while diligently fulfilling our role as responsible stewards of public funds. During the recent council meeting, the union president rightly raised concerns about work-life balance and the unique challenges faced by our blue-collar workers who had been on the front lines throughout the pandemic. Our offers and our compensation proposals directly address these concerns, showcasing our genuine commitment to their well-being and their success at work. À ceux qui en douteraient, je le dis haut et fort, nous ne voulons pas appauvrir nos cols bleus. Dans une petite municipalité comme la nôtre, les élus, les membres de l'administration et les cols bleus se rencontrent au quotidien. Cette proximité crée des liens. Nous les connaissons, ils nous connaissent, et nous nous soucions sincèrement de leur bien-être au travail et dans leur vie. I think there's been a lot of information that's floated around on social media, but as well in the paper last week. The paper last week had an article that was not factual. We have notified the paper that it wasn't factual. We did not cancel negotiation days, which was indicated in the Westmount Independent. So we felt that it was very important to set the record straight. We are ready and willing and able to continue this negotiation process. So unfortunately, over the coming weeks, or certainly starting this week, residents may see an impact, and they've seen an impact in some of the events that we typically host. In particular, Saint-Jean-Baptiste in the city is a large event. It's much bigger than our Canada Day event, and it requires a lot of work from our blue-collar workers. So we are very discouraged that we are at this point, but hopefully we'll have better news to share at our next council meeting. So that is just one point that I wanted to raise. And then just in terms of some items that are on the public agenda, before we go to the first question period, you'll see on item number 8, which is a partnership agreement with the City of Westmount and Marianopolis College. That is a motion that we are moving tonight to continue discussions. We have already, Marianopolis and the City of Westmount had talked about some shared services in the past, whether it be gyms or theaters or on their grounds. One of the things that we would like to do with them is to partner with them to carry some of the infrastructure costs of upgrading their soccer field so that it becomes a soccer field that we can add to our roster of fields in the city. And it would be a turf field with organic infill is what we have discussed. So what we are, this is, the motion tonight is not passing the contract for the field, but it is to let everybody know that we are beginning these discussions. This is something, this is an issue that is raised constantly. It's been part of when we have done surveys of people wanting better sports facilities for children, in particular for our youth. And this is an issue that is raised all the time. So you may not see it in the letters section of the Westmount Independent, because that's not the typical group that writes those letters. But it is something that we hear constantly from parents, from families, from doctors, from schools, from other municipalities, is the state of our fields, because a grass field, I'm going to give you the statistic right now, a grass field should not be played more than 15 to 18 hours a week. Our junior field in Westmount Park gets 51 hours per week. So there is a demand for it. And so if you want to go look at the state of the junior field right now, there's just no way to keep that junior field going. So this is a perfect opportunity to partner with a place where it doesn't take away from any green space, any park in the city, but it adds to our playing fields in the city. So I'm excited about this one. So I just wanted to raise that before we go into the question period. Does anyone else have anything else they want to raise from the agenda? No? And I should note that my back door is on the permits list. Nothing. Yeah. On va commencer avec des questions. Est-ce qu'on n'a pas des questions en ligne qui étaient envoyées aujourd'hui?
Non, pas de questions.
Okay, well, we'll start with questions in the room. And for those of you who have not asked a question at council before, state your name and address and your question.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. My name is John Fretz. I live at 473 Lansdowne. I have a couple of questions regarding the budget.
Welcome, Mr. Fretz.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here. Now, the budget has a résultat net, a net result of 4 million, and it looks like 874 and change. Now, that's not bracketed, therefore it's a surplus. Further up on the budget, you have, or the city has, a surplus appropriation, which is bracketed, therefore negative, of 4,607,000 and change. Taking the difference of those two, Madame Mayor, would you say that we have a surplus of 267,479 and change?
So, thank you, Mr. Fretz, for your question. Mr. D'Amico is actually going to table, he's going to address some of this later, but he may want to address some of it now.
So we're going to be, I'll be presenting the audited financial statements. So I feel that that's a better indicator to look at an audited financial statement than to do the budget. And all that will be in the audited financial statement. And I will answer your question in my speech regarding the difference between the audited financial statement and the budget.
So, if I understand you correctly, and thank you, is that the final product, if you want to call it that, will post a surplus if there is one.
Yes, there will be a surplus.
There will be a surplus.
Yes,
And
that will be confirmed by the audited financial statement, which I'll be depositing shortly.
Okay, that's great. I mean, because other municipalities do it. Conseil posited their surplus a while ago, and I was astonished. I think it might have been a journalistic error that Montreal even had a surplus of 377 million. So it's good to know what our surplus is. I think that shows sound, reassures people like me. Now, we have here pay-as-you-go municipal. Now, we started off the year apparently with 20 million, it looks like a 682, and the actual was 11,718,000. So I've never seen such a spread. So naturally, I'm curious. If you take 20 million to represent X, what is the percentage of completed projects represented by the 11 million? In other words,
Do you want to take that one too?
No,
So
I don't have the direct answer for that.
we can get you back that exact information, but some of those projects are carried forward. They were in the pay-as-you-go, whether they went out to tender and nobody bid. We had a couple of those issues last year on some of our bigger projects. And Mount Pleasant was delayed because of the material delay. Mount Pleasant is being done this year, but it was in last year's pay-as-you-go because the actual material, the granite in particular, was unavailable. So we're seeing that's the impact of this massive delay in some of our material, some of the supply chain issues primarily. So Mount Pleasant had to be carried over into this year. So that's why that spread. We have seen it in the past. We're not thrilled about it, but that is the case. But we can get you the exact numbers on that, and you'll see once Councillor D'Amico gives his commentary with explaining some of the numbers. Some of that may be have a little more detail around it for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So those are your two questions. We'll let other people in the room ask questions, and then there's always a second question period.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Dorothy Lipovenko, York Street, District 4. Can someone
Five.
Hi. Can someone enlighten me, please? What is the process? Who is responsible for informing the city's website of what should go on it? The reason I ask, and I mentioned District 4 specifically, is because in the last 15 months, there have been 2 public consultations involving either District 4 exclusively or...
I think you're referring to District 5, Mrs. Lipovenko.
It's Ms.
Ms.
No,
Lipovenko.
I'm in...
You're in District 5.
Sorry, okay. Sorry, I don't know why I have a mental block, and I think of it as 4, maybe because I'd like to be in 4. That being said, there have been 2 public consultations involving District
5.
5, one of which was exclusive to 5 and one involving 4 and 5 within the last 15 months, neither of which was posted on the city's website. And there have been other instances of overnight work being done. For example, recently there was work done overnight in the Glen Yards regarding train maintenance. There was, between midnight and 2, shortly before that began, the previous night, I had to call public security because there was drilling, banging, and hammering. We had no idea where this was coming from. And it turned out, Groupe Maurice does not work at night, and they have no control over when Hydro-Quebec shows up. But in fact, it was a Hydro-Quebec crew, and that was confirmed by public security when they went out there. I'll give you another example. I don't want to belabor the point. Last fall, on a Sunday, late in the afternoon, we received notification that York Street was having its water shut off the following day, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning for the better part of the day for routine maintenance by Travaux Publics. I believe that also was not on the city's website. The notice fell far short of the 24 hours that is required, and it also happened to happen on the eve of a religious holiday. What I'm trying to say here is that time and time again, I have noticed that District 5 just does not seem to be on the radar. And I'm trying to figure out who is responsible for notifying the city's website team of work either done by the city or work just not perhaps in Westmount territory, but certainly impacting dozens of homes within the city of Westmount that is being done just outside that should be we should be getting notification of. What makes it really compelling to have notification on the website is when the first line of notice, when we fall through the cracks, as we did with the lack of notification on the March 2022 public consultation. Had we seen that on the city's website, those of us who were overlooked by Canada Post in the flyer delivery, we would have been aware that there was going to be a public consult, and some of us, including myself, would have shown up. It's again, had city posted the notice about the water closing on the Friday afternoon, I wouldn't be scrambling 5 minutes before Rosh Hashanah trying to figure out how I'm going to deal with no water on a Monday. So what I'm trying to ask is, can we change the situation, please, to have the kind of information that's necessary for residents to function properly on the city's website? Because I see it for other districts.
Okay, so we've raised several issues.
I know, but
there for different events. The public consultations were. Are you referring to the medical offices one?
No. I'm referring.
Oh,
no. I'm just using those as examples.
Yeah.
The 2022 public consultation was basically a shoot the breeze with the two councillors, Councillor Pert, Councillor Bostock, and the residents and yourself at Vic Hall. As you know, I stood here in May of last year asking you to reschedule because some of us, numerous households, had been overlooked.
Yes.
That's water under the bridge. What I'm trying to say is that was not on the city's website. I was using that as an example. Neither was the Krekel consult in March 3 months ago. That was also not on the city's website. And when I asked somebody on the website team, he said, well, it only affects your neighborhood or your district.
So that one had been a specific zone area invite.
So
okay, these are all very good suggestions, especially some of the issues that are outside of the territory that would affect you. So, and in very much so trains. When we get the information, if they're doing work on CP Rail, we do share it, and we share it on all our social media platforms.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor, who is responsible for getting the information?
Department.
Pardon me?
The communications department.
I don't think they function like a beat reporter calling up their contacts the way I used to do in the newsroom.
So they work very closely with the directors of all the departments who share that information. Is there room for improvement? Always. So I will certainly share your feedback with them. And on the public consultations, we're doing more public consultations, and we are posting them on all of our different platforms. But that, unfortunately, the one where you got to come and spend an evening with the councillors of 4 and 5 was a situation with Canada Post that is sort of inexplicable.
No, I understand that, but had it been on the city's website, it would have been a backup to the first
Yes,
line of
I hear what you're
defense,
saying, yeah,
so to
yeah.
speak. But when excuse me, just one final thing. When I've asked the city website manager about what's going on, why, for example, when they were repaving de Maisonneuve on Claremont for 2 weeks in June 3 years ago, in the overnight hours, he said, we didn't know, nobody told us. So clearly, it sounded to me like they're relying on people in the city coming to them to notify them about what to post on the website, as opposed to
Yes,
them
and I think
calling out.
what you will see now is there's a new structure within the communications department that our Director General has put in place, and it's we're trying to be much less reactive and much more proactive in terms of sharing of the information. And obviously, a lot of that is doing more public consultations and getting it out to the right people. But your feedback is certainly noted, especially with the work that's going on around us. And that's why it's important for us to have, last week we had a meeting with Ville Marie, so for the district that would affect primarily Councillor Kez, is making sure that we're much more aligned on some of their issues, like our common issues. And we've done the same thing with NDG. So it's
Really?
making
Well,
sure
did
they need
Councillor-
to notify us as well.
Shouldn't Councillor Bostock be in touch with them on a regular basis so that we know? I mean, we had no
Yeah.
idea, because it came out of left field, because we know Groupe Maurice does not work at night. So I had to call public security. I don't like calling them without being able to source the noise. I don't feel like running around in my nightgown at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for the noise, because I don't want to send them on a wild goose
Okay.
chase. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, I think there's been a breakdown in communication on many levels, not just there, but elsewhere, because we're just simply not being put on the website. And yet there seems to be other things that have nothing to do with Westmount.
Okay, your point is noted, and
Okay,
we'll
thank
see
you.
where we can make, where we can make improvements for that area in particular.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Janice Kraut, The Boulevard. On June 14th, exactly 2 years ago, you formed a governance council of 11 individuals to address the many issues facing Westmount Hydro, from its aging infrastructure to the financial drain on taxpayer funds. An 11-person council for a $7 million operating budget and approximately $2 million on average. Would you agree with the following statement that Hydro Westmount, as a standalone organization, is essentially bankrupt and would have closed long ago if successive administrations hadn't been, hadn't been able to dig forever deeper into taxpayer pockets via the general tax revenues of the city at the expense of our dilapidated infrastructure? So after 2 years, that was the time that this council was supposed to be operational, what have you identified as the future of Westmount Hydro with regard to capital requirements and the financial burden you're ready to impose on taxpayers, since you've identified no tangible benefits? Mr. Leopold's comments, who sat on the council, saying that it is an insurance policy, is ill-founded and based on wishful thinking, not facts. All utilities are subject to outages. The implication is that somehow, unique to Westmount Hydro, you can guarantee residents will never face an outage. Obviously false. What engineering studies have been done outlining the state of Westmount's infrastructure? How would you rate it from needs minimal capital investment to significant capital investment over the next 3 to 5 years? You said that work needs to be done underground, which will be quite expensive, I imagine, and you have a contingency plan should the investments be substantial. If you need $10 or $20 million over the next few years, do you expect to continue using the general budget at the expense of other projects? Are you putting Westmount residents at financial risk? I see Councillor Shamey's not here. And going back 8 years, you've spent $18 million, and not prior to your administration, and you've stated that we need, or Councillor Shamey had said, we need to control our hydro, and I would have liked him to elaborate. Hydro Quebec serves 4 million people in the province and operates at scale, has extensive resources, which Westmount Hydro does not. So do you think Westmount residents are entitled to an honest, forthright, transparent update on the state of Westmount Hydro?
Do you want me, I'll just answer first, or do you want to address some of the numbers?
I would like to address some of the numbers.
Okay,
So,
you answer first, and then
Yeah.
I will respond, and I think you'll be,
so very shortly, I will be presenting the audited financial statements of the city of Westmount. There will be a section there on page 9 that specifically regards the functioning of Hydro Westmount. When you state that Hydro Westmount is bankrupt, I'm just going to give you the audited numbers, so these are real numbers. Revenues went from 27.5 million in 2021 to 29.7 million in 2022. The end result at the end of the day, if you look at the equivalent of the net income, if you will, went from 1.9 million in 2021, after you include all the capital expenditures, to 2.6 million. So to state that Hydro Westmount is bankrupt is factually false based on the audited financial
You're
statements.
giving 1 year's performance. We need to look at Hydro Westmount given its ongoing needs over a longer period of time. And so during the Smith administration, we have spent, cash in, cash out, $15 million of taxpayer money to keep the lights on with no benefit. Okay, so let's not look at 1 year. This is an ongoing thing. And we're told that there's substantial investments that need to be made, and we don't have the money. It does not generate sufficient surplus cash to pay for it. So you're using general funds from the budget that obviously eat it. If we look at the $15 million that you've spent on this, and let's agree there's no benefit, we pay the same thing we would pay Hydro-Quebec. We paid $6.2 million for the famous greenhouse. That's $21 million during the Smith administration that has gone to things that nobody can really benefit from. Okay?
so,
Let me finish, please.
I'm, well,
All right. And
no, I'm going to answer your question, because you asked me a
I just
question,
want to
so I'll-
clarify, so the $21 million that could have gone in previous administrations, has Hydro Westmount ever been on a continuous basis cash flow positive? My guess is no.
yes.
But anyway, it's certainly not in the last 8 years, and obviously the infrastructure must be aging further, and is going to require, I imagine you must have engineering studies, I would hope you would, as to what is going to be required over the next 1 to 5 years.
So I will answer your question, and Councillor D'Amico will also address it later in the audited financial statements. It's no secret there is a massive challenge at Hydro Westmount in terms of aging infrastructure and the investment that we will need to make. It's a discussion that we have had extensively around the council table, that our Director General is also taking very seriously. Every municipality has some hydro costs, whether they run their own hydro or not. I would question your numbers about Hydro-Quebec. I think the number of, are you saying 4 million households? I don't know what.
It said 4 million customers on the website. I didn't get into.
So they largely cover the entire province, except for a few smaller municipalities. Hydro Westmount at one point did generate a profit. There's no secret. There needs to be a massive investment in the hydro infrastructure of the city. Should the taxpayers of today, does that make sense for the taxpayers of today to carry that burden? That is something that is being examined. Obviously, Hydro Westmount has been an integral part of the city and how we've run it, but hydroelectricity has changed dramatically in that time.
Absolutely.
So I agree with you. I also agree with you in terms of Mr. Leopold does not speak on behalf of the city. He could write as many letters to the editor as he would like. He does not speak, he's not a representative of the city.
He sat on your council, though.
You
accepted him and appointed him to your council.
He came to one meeting. I wouldn't say that I agree with his statement at all. I too am outside of the city of Westmount. I'm a Hydro-Quebec customer. It's not like I've been ill-served by them there. There is a massive infrastructure cost and upgrade that has to be done. And every year we do, it does benefit us when we do redo a road from top to bottom, like we're doing right now on Mount Pleasant. We can upgrade infrastructure. We don't have them coming back. We've had, I have colleagues in the city of Pointe Claire where they rebuild a road. 2 years later, Hydro-Quebec comes in, rips it up, and does their hydro infrastructure upgrades. In an ideal world, it's all coordinated. That doesn't always happen. But it is something that this council is, and the administration, we have asked the administration to look into what will those costs be, what exactly, long-term. This is not a short-term decision, but long-term, and we'll have to make some decisions about how we manage Hydro Westmount going forward. So
now the question is it's from two things. One is in terms of ripping up the streets, Gazmet, Bell Canada, they all do the same thing. The sidewalk outside my home is a mess. It's cracked in two. There's holes everywhere. Westmount never comes by to fix anything. So don't blame that on Hydro-Quebec, that Hydro-Quebec's the only one who rips up streets and it's other utilities as well. But from what you're saying is that you don't seem to think there's an avenue to get rid of Hydro Westmount, that you seem to be prepared to impose this substantial investment. Where is the money going to come from?
No, I don't think you should confer. That's not at all.
That's what I'm asking you.
That is not what I said.
Well, you just said that it's going to require substantial investment. We're discussing it. But you've never said we are looking at the option of closing down Hydro Westmount and putting everybody on the grid. You don't, like the Saguenay or perhaps Magog, you don't produce your own energy.
No, we do not.
You're just a distributor. Why do we need Hydro Westmount? It's a new age, yes. You are too small to operate efficiently and to justify the expense. So are you looking at shutting this down, freeing up money, freeing up resources? It's low-hanging fruit so that we can invest in the things that people use, the streets, the parks, the sidewalks, and bring our infrastructure into the modern age, instead of it looking like the streets of Kabul.
So on that point, I would say that these are all part of the discussions that are going forward, and it's Hydro Westmount is has been an important part of the history of Westmount, and we are looking at what those upgrades would look like, how much they would cost, and how that rolls out. Obviously, they would have to be serviced by someone, so we are actively looking at all the options right now.
A lot of people have, it's like any organization focuses on what they're good at. We're not good at Westmount Hydro, let's be honest. The infrastructure is a mess, and it's sucking important revenues out of the general budget. And that it's time to move on and modernize.
So thank you for your feedback, and it's valuable feedback to hear from citizens on these issues, and it's a very, very important issue. And I think also just making it very clear to residents, they don't pay more for their hydro than they would if they were a Hydro-Quebec customer. They
are paying more because you're using money out of the general tax fund to supplement it. So at least be honest with the taxpayers.
Our audited statements are completely honest every year.
That's right. And 5 and 6 years while you've been mayor, we have spent $15 million.
And for 125 years before me, Hydro Westmount existed. I didn't create Hydro Westmount as much as you like me to paint me in that.
A lot of typewriters existed. It doesn't mean that we continue.
Thank you for your.
It's time to move forward and have vision.
Thank you for your feedback. Next question.
So first, Jean-Sébastien Grisé, so 71 Columbia, I think it's in District 8. So thank you for taking my call the other day. So really quick question. So first, thank you for the announcement today. I think it's a start of a journey, though. We can't think it's the end. My questions are more on the next steps and the timing and how, as a citizen, I can help to make it happen.
So the next steps are that, and this, I'd have to say this was also a unanimous decision of council, which is not always the case, but everybody felt that this was an important, a real opportunity in terms of, one, you could never get that land for, like, it's just not available. That land is not available anywhere to buy or develop or do whatever you want with it. So the next step is working with Marianopolis as their board is also very supportive of this, but to come to a beneficial agreement of how we would go forward with, we're not buying the land. We would help with the infrastructure costs of building this, and then how we develop a partnership, a long-term partnership, so that this is accessible to all, all residents for generations to come. And that's the stage we're in now, but we felt it was very important to state that publicly before we begin those discussions. So citizens, it's no secret that this is an important, there's many on this council that have stated before, including myself, that we want to build more programs for families, because the more you do that, the better your city is. So, and this is an important one.
And is there a general timing? Because I understand the
when
next
would
steps,
I like it built?
Well, this year, but it won't happen. So
it won't happen, but I mean, it would be wonderful if it was spring 24.
Well, okay, good.
For construction.
Good. And second
Because
question.
there already is an existing field there.
Yeah.
The field exists.
And
it's not regulation size, but it does exist. It's underutilized. By both, and Marianopolis is there to stay. There's been a bit of a shift in how Marianopolis operates, which has been a bit of the delay in this. We were not able to, they are now operating the site themselves as Marianopolis, as opposed to, c'est Notre-Dame, c'est pas les Sœurs Grises. It's, the CNDs. So there's been a shift in that. So anyways, it goes back to their board, but they wanted to have a firm commitment from the city before they brought it to the board to hammer out the details.
And kind of a follow-up question, because you hit on it. It's all about the details to make sure that the execution is great, and one of them is the measurements, because we've had the Saputo field is wrong field size. So will there be like a formal consultation process to make sure that the size is correct, that the technology used for lights and for the turf is optimal, so that it meets the purposes?
Absolutely. It would be
perfect.
Very unfortunate to build something that doesn't actually meet the goal. And it's also it was interesting to hear Marianopolis's perspective on it, of how their offering has changed to their students as well, in terms of they didn't used to necessarily have a lot of sports teams. They're building those much more. They're seeing the huge benefit to it. Right now, their kids from Marianopolis are traveling to Brébeuf to train and things like that. So it is beneficial to both parties, for sure.
Good, thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions before we move into the next part of the agenda? No? Do we have any questions online?
No questions online.
Okay. On va commencer avec l'adoption de l'ordre du jour. Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the agenda of the regular council sitting of June 19th, 2023 be adopted with the addition of the following item under new business. Item 24.1, demotion of a management employee number 96093.
Thank you. A seconder is Councillor Bostock. Again, all in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 5, confirmation of minutes. Councillor Gallery again.
Je propose que le procès-verbal de la séance ordinaire du Conseil tenue le 5 juin 2023 soit approuvé.
Thank you. A seconder will be Councillor Aronson. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item 6.1, 6.1, la correspondance. Les documents suivants sont déposés. Règlement RCA 23-17387, règlement modifiant le règlement relatif à la circulation des camions et des véhicules utiles RCA 13-17208, afin de modifier l'annexe cartographique portant sur la circulation des camions et des véhicules utiles de l'arrondissement Côte-des-Neiges Notre-Dame-de-Grâce, ainsi que la résolution CA 23-170153, adoptant le dit règlement. Just so that people know, when we have a truck route, so we have established truck routes in Westmount. When our neighboring boroughs have a truck route, you have to share with your neighboring boroughs what your truck route is, to have, and cities to have a system that works ideally. 12.2, 3, résolution des diverses municipalités demandent au ministère de la Culture et des Communications pour garantir la solvabilité de tous les immeubles patrimoniaux à coût raisonnable ou en appui à la dite demande. 6.2, 6.2 is Councillor Gallery again, le procès-verbal du comité plénier.
Le procès-verbal de la rencontre du comité plénier du Conseil du 15 mai 2023 est déposé et est disponible sur le site web de la Ville.
Merci beaucoup. 6.3 is Councillor D'Amico, the tabling of the financial report for the 2022 fiscal year.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Donc, conformément à l'article 105.2.2 de la loi sur les cités et villes, il incombe à la mairesse de présenter aux citoyens un rapport sur les points saillants du rapport financier, du rapport d'audit et de l'auditeur externe. Au nom de la mairesse, j'ai le plaisir de présenter ce rapport. Pour la deuxième année de son contrat de 4 ans, la firme Deloitte SRL a procédé à la vérification des états financiers de 2022 de la ville de Westmount. Le rapport du vérificateur est un produit livrable important à la suite de la vérification. Deloitte a émis une opinion sans réserve ou une opinion au rapport sans réserve indiquant que les états financiers reflètent une image fidèle de la situation financière de la ville de Westmount au 31 décembre 2022. Le cabinet a évalué les fraudes et les risques et a examiné les contrôles internes conformément aux normes comptables canadiennes pour le secteur public. I am pleased to report that as at December 31, 2022, Westmount held a net financial asset position with financial assets exceeding financial liabilities by $23.7 million compared to $23.8 million in 2021. When considering non-financial assets such as buildings, sewers, machinery, and equipment, the city's total net worth amounts to $233.8 million compared to $225.6 million in 2021. This positive financial position is a result of the city's investments in infrastructure, which have been financed through the pay-as-you-go approach. The pay-as-you-go approach policy, Westmount pioneered in 1994, consists of paying cash for all routine capital investments. This has the advantage of minimizing the impact of increasing interest rates on our infrastructure spending. The audited statements confirm an operating surplus of $4,874,826 for the 2022 financial year, primarily due to a few unforeseen factors. One significant factor is an additional increase of $2.6 million in duties on transfers over the budget, driven by the unexpected strength of the Westmount real estate market. Additionally, interest revenues increased by $1.2 million as a result of higher interest rates on investments. Hydro-Westmount a connu une augmentation des revenus bruts de 1,8 million qui a été partiellement compensée par une augmentation des coûts de 0,7 million, principalement due à l'achat d'électricité auprès d'Hydro-Québec. Cette augmentation peut être attribuée à une consommation d'électricité plus élevée résultant de la reprise des activités commerciales en 2022 et d'un hiver plus froid. Il y a également eu une réduction de 0,5 million ou 11,1% des dépenses de fonctionnement en raison du roulement du personnel et des difficultés de recrutement. Les résultats de fonctionnement de la Ville pour 2022 indiquent que les dépenses départementales totales se sont élevées à 16,3 millions, dépassant légèrement le montant budgétisé de 15,6 millions. Remuneration expenses decreased by $1.9 million, or 7.7%, compared to the budgeted amounts due to workforce shortages, vacant positions, and sick leave. The municipal pay-as-you-go expenses were $9 million lower than budgeted due to disruptions in the supply chain, workforce, and delivery delays. Certain work and projects were not finalized due to global labor and supply chain issues, coupled with the fact that some of our projects that went out for tender did not obtain any bids. Au 31 décembre 2022, le total du surplus s'élève à 34,9 millions, dont 23,7 millions sont alloués à divers projets et 11,2 millions ne sont pas affectés. Comme chaque année, le surplus sera analysé par le Conseil afin de déterminer l'utilisation appropriée. Le 1er juin 2023, le trésorier a signé le rapport financier des résultats de fonctionnement de 2022 et les états financiers vérifiés qui seront soumis au ministère des Affaires municipales et de l'Habitation, la MAMACH. Une version simplifiée du rapport financier 2022 est disponible pour consultation sur le site web de la Ville. We remain committed to investing in our infrastructure while keeping our current debt levels unchanged and in searching for new sources of revenues. In 2023, in collaboration with the administration, we will explore the possibility of implementing a green accounting process or environmental accounting. In this regard, I attended a conference in February of 2023 titled The Evolution of ESG Reporting Standards that focused on green accounting. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor D'Amico. Item number 7 is modification to the regular council sitting schedule, August 2023. Councillor Gallery.
I move that the schedule for the 2023 regular council sittings, resolution number 2022-12-300, be further amended so that the regular council sitting scheduled for Monday, August 7th, 2023, be cancelled. That a notice be published to this effect in accordance with the City and Towns Act.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Aronson. This is typically in the summer, either in July or August. One of the council meetings is moved. This is happening in the August one this year. And so people know the Aglo Council is canceled for July. That's the one that they take off for the City of Montreal. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. Item number 8, partnership agreement, City of Westmount and Marianopolis College, is Councillor Gallery.
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Whereas preliminary discussions have taken place between the City of Westmount and Marianopolis College concerning a potential partnership for the construction and use of a synthetic soccer field on Marianopolis' grounds, owned by the Congregation Notre Dame. I move that the City of Westmount commit to ongoing discussions with Marianopolis College with the intent on forming a future partnership for the construction of a synthetic soccer field on the grounds of Marianopolis College.
Thank you very much. A seconder is D'Amico. Councillor D'Amico had his hand up first. Any further comments on this? I've made lots of comments tonight on this. If you want to make any further comments.
I guess I'm just happy also to see that it's moving forward.
Yeah. Anyone else want to? No? But I think it's also important to thank, there's a huge amount of volunteers that go into running these programs, as you can see here, who's joined us tonight, but and as well in our own House League soccer program and all of our sports, it requires a huge amount of volunteer hours from the community. So I think it's also an opportunity to thank those who do that for the betterment of the community and making it a place that families want to live. Councillor Aronson.
Very quickly, Madam Mayor, I know there are a number of people in the city who are concerned about the possibility of an environmental impact when one talks about adding a turf. I just want to reassure folks that obviously environmental impact is one of the considerations that will be taken up in these discussions. And so one ought not to read our decision to move forward with discussions here tonight as a move to say we have done away with these concerns and we are not going to look at them, just in case anyone is worried about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 9 is Councillor Bostock, emergency contracts, various services, ice storm. Yes.
Yeah, I did. Whereas on April 5th, 2023, an ice storm caused several branches and trees to fall in the City of Westmount. Whereas internal resources have been deployed and the city has had to call on external resources on an emergency basis to clean up the damage. Whereas an application for reimbursement will be submitted to the Centre de coordination des opérations d'urgence de l'agglomération de Montréal, CCMU. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $123,389.65, including tax credits for the clearing of damages in the City of Westmount following the ice storm of April 5th, 2023. That Council confirm the awarding of the contract for the transportation of branches to the depot site to Vidolo Excavation Limited. That Council confirm the awarding of the contract for the transportation of branches to the depot site Transvac LLC. That Council confirmed the awarding of the contract for emergency tree pruning and cutting to Arbo Design, Inc. That Council confirmed the awarding of the contract for the chipping and disposal of branches to 102-15473 Canada, Inc., Home Tree Tree Services, to authorize an expenditure in the total amount of $135,127.75, including tax credits for the said contracts, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-1941.
Thank you. A seconder on this will be Councillor D'Amico, and this is obviously the contracts that were not, that had to be given out to supplement the work that we did internally with our own hydro workers and public works and engineering employees.
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 10, numéro 10, modification d'un contrat approbation d'une clôture de sécurité et d'un tunnel pour les véhicules autour de 4030 Boulevard Dorchester. Councillor Kez.
Thank you. Whereas under Section 573.2 of the Cities and Towns Act, CQLR Chapter C-19, in case of irresistible force of such nature as to impair the life or health of the population or seriously damage the equipment of a municipality, the mayor may order any expenditure deemed necessary and award the contract necessary to remedy the situation. Whereas a notice of deterioration has been registered in the land register for the movable located at 4030 Dorchester Boulevard, hereinafter the property, resolution number 2019-02-29, whereas council awarded a contract to Scaffolds Plus Laval Inc. for the rental of protective fencing on Weardale, resolution number 2021-04-82, 2021-08-2013, 2022-03-69, and 2023-0-63. Whereas stabilization masonry work has been completed, as established in the engineer report dated May 8, 2023, whereas the protective tunnel and safety fencing installed by Scaffold Plus at the request of the city have been dismantled, je propose qu'une dépense additionnelle de $6,722.50, taxes inclus, soit autorisée pour le contrat pour la location et le démantèlement de la clôture de protection sur Weardale Park avec Échafaud plus Laval Inc. D'imputer cette dépense conformément aux informations financières inscrites au soumettre décisionnel numéro 2021 13 Union 1209, 2021 13 Union 1316, 2022 13 Union 1510, 2023 13 Union 1830 et 2023 13 Union 1945.
Merci beaucoup. Do I have a seconder on this? Will be Councillor Bostock. This is a, do you want to make further comments on this? This is
It's
a long-going
self-explanatory.
file.
There was a fence and a tunnel structure located at 4030 Dorchester for an excruciatingly long period of time. Finally, the tunnel structure has come down, so we have to pay for that. And there is a fencing around the building itself that must remain because the work is not 100% complete, but this is good news. I mean, we're spending a little money, but the tunnel came down, so good news.
Yes, good news on a difficult file that's gone on for a very long time. All in favor? Aye. Carried. Number 11, numéro 11, demande de proposition, rehaussement des équipements de télécommunications. Councillor D'Amico pour Monsieur Chamy.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Entendu qu'une demande de proposition a été envoyée pour le rehaussement des équipements de télécommunications, demande de proposition numéro DDP, trait d'union 2023, trait d'union 030, et que conformément au règlement 1556 sur la gestion contractuelle, la déclaration relative aux mesures prises pour assurer la rotation des co-contractants est déposée lors de cette séance. Attendu qu'après l'analyse des propositions reçues, Système ACCI Inc. est le soumissionnaire retenu. Je propose d'autoriser une dépense de 104 392,22 incluant le crédit de taxe pour le rehaussement des équipements de télécommunications. Demande de proposition numéro DDP, trait d'union 2023, trait d'union 030, d'accorder à Système ACCI incorporé le contrat à cette fin, conformément à sa proposition, soit pour une somme maximale de 114 323,09, taxes incluses, le tout conformément aux documents contractuels de la demande de proposition DDP, trait d'union 2023, trait d'union 030. D'imputer cette dépense conformément aux informations financières inscrites au sommaire décisionnel numéro 2023, trait d'union 1923.
Merci beaucoup. A seconder will be Councillor Peart. This is part of our ongoing upgrades to our IT system. All in favor? Carried. Item number 12, again, is Councillor D'Amico.
Thank you.
Request for proposals, work equipment upgrades, DDP 2023-032.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas a request for proposals was sent for the work equipment upgrades, request for proposals number DDP hyphen 2023-032, and that in conformity with bylaw 1556 on contract management, the déclaration relative aux mesures prises pour assurer la rotation des contractants is submitted to this meeting. Whereas following the analysis of the received proposals, ASN Inc. is the selected bidder. I propose to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $55,754.66, including tax credits, for the work equipment upgrades, request for proposals number DDP-2023-032, to award to ASN Inc. the contract for this purpose in accordance with its proposal for a maximum amount of $61,058.62, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposals DDP/2023/032. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-1954.
Thank you very much. Councillor Peart would like to second that. All in favor? Carried. Item number 13, request for proposals, a conversion of a tanker truck, change of use. Councillor Bostock.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $67,033.23, including tax credits, for the conversion of a tanker truck, change of use. To award to Équipement Twin Laval, Inc. the contract for this purpose in accordance with its proposal for a maximum amount of $73,410.12, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the request for proposals, and to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-1940.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Gallery. Any further comments on this? No. All in favor? Carried. Item number 14, call for public tenders, reconstruction of the alley between Weredale and Weredale Park and Clandeboye. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la Mairesse. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $362,731.81, including tax credits, for the reconstruction of the alley between Weredale Park and Clandeboye, tender number PEB 2023-019, to award to Les Entreprises de Construction Ventec, Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $397,238.62, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tenders PEB-2023-019. To allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-1944.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kez would very gladly like to second this. This is a long been awaited, the rebuilding of this lane. Do you have any further comments on it?
Pretty self-explanatory, and as Councillor Kez would attest, work that is will be very well appreciated in the sector.
Yeah. Councillor Kez, do you have any comments on it beyond that? No?
No, just happy a lane's being done.
There you go. All in favor? Carried. Item number 15, call for public tenders, purchase of a full-size pickup truck, gasoline PUB 2023-022. Councillor Bostock.
I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $59,448.12, including taxes, for the purchase of a full-size pickup truck, gasoline, tender number PUB 2023-022, to award to Automobile PM Saint-Jean, Inc. the contract for this purpose and at its bid price for a maximum amount of $65,103.44, including taxes, the whole in conformity with the contractual documents for the call for tenders PUB 2023-022, and to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-1952.
Thank you. A seconder on this will be Councillor Peart. Any further comments on the mute? Councillor Aronson would like to comment on the pickup truck.
I am sorry to be irritating in this respect, but I do want to thank the people who do the procurement for the city of Westmount for making a valiant effort to find non-gasoline powered vehicles. We're going to come to our public tender offering for that one later in the agenda. Unfortunately, it appears that there are none available in the market at this moment. Nevertheless, as I have explained to my fellow councillors, I will be voting against this motion tonight, as I feel it is important that we begin to send a strong signal to the market that we can no longer continue to reinvest in fossil fuels-oriented purchases with a service life that is long enough that we may end up running into a problem when the vehicles can no longer either get gasoline at an effective cost or be serviced, as by 2035, gasoline-powered vehicles are going to be off the market in Quebec. This is symbolic, but this is where I believe we are going in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Aronson. So all those in favor? All those against?
Just me.
Carried. Thank you, though, Councillor Aronson. Item 16, call for public tender, supply and installation of new furniture. And that is Councillor Gallery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to authorize an expenditure in the amount of $78,513.01, including tax credits for the supply and installation of new furniture, tender number PUB-2023-027, to award to Staples Professional, Inc. the contract for this purpose at its bid price for a maximum amount of $85,981.98, including taxes. The whole in conformity with the contractual documents of the call for tenders PUB-2023-027, to allocate this expenditure in accordance with the financial information included in the decision-making file number 2023-1943.
Thank you very much. A seconder, an FEO, say Councillor Bostock. It's pretty self-explanatory. All in favor? Carried. Item number 17, c'est le Conseil Bostock, appel d'offres public, annulation de l'appel d'offres public PUB 2023-023.
Whereas a public tender opening was held on June 2nd, 2023 for the purchase of a full-size pickup truck electric, tender number PUB 2023-023, and minutes prepared by the city clerk's office are submitted to this meeting, whereas no tender was submitted. I move that the call for tenders bearing number PUB 2023-023 for the contract for the purchase of a full-size pickup truck electric be cancelled.
Thank you very much. So Councillor Aronson would like to second that. Any further comments? No tenders.
You can't make it nobody applied to submit to the tender, so nothing we can do about it.
All in favor? Carried. Item number 18, numéro 18, c'est le conseiller de Mico, transaction Chubb du Canada, compagnie d'assurance et Eric Maldoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas the Chubb Insurance Company of Canada and Eric Maldoff have filed a statement of claim against the City of Westmount before the Court of Quebec, Civil Division, District of Montreal, under court file number 500-17-1188-99-213, whereas the City of Westmount has agreed in principle to enter into a settlement agreement and transaction with Chubb Insurance Company of Canada and Eric Maldoff to resolve the matter out of court, whereas it is in the best interest of the city to resolve this matter, I move that the City of Westmount agree to settle the legal proceedings brought by Chubb Insurance Company of Canada and Eric Maldoff against the City of Westmount in Court of Quebec, file number 500-17-1188-99-213, that the City of Westmount execute the out-of-court settlement, release, and transaction, that the Director of Legal Services or the Assistant Director of Legal Services, in the absence, be authorized to sign for and on behalf of the City of Westmount said release and transaction.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this will be Councillor Roux. I don't know if we have any further comments on this. Or Monsieur le Greffier, est-ce qu'on peut donner plus de détails sur ça ou non?
On peut donner quelques détails. En réalité, il y a eu un refoulement d'aqueduc. En fait, il y a eu un bris d'aqueduc dans le cadre de travaux qui ont été effectués par la ville de Westmount, mais par des sous-traitants de la ville. Et donc, les contractants seront appelés là, à dédommager les personnes qui nous ont poursuivis dans les circonstances.
Okay, parfait.
tant pour celui-ci que le prochain point à l'ordre du jour, c'est
C'est la
le
même
même
chose.
événement et c'est la même chose.
Merci beaucoup. All in favor? Carried. Again will be Councillor D'Amico, Transaction Intact Insurance Company.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas Intact Insurance Company has filed a statement of claim against the City of Westmount before the Court of Quebec, Civil Division, District of Montreal, under Court File Number 500-22-270022-216. Whereas the City of Westmount has agreed in principle to enter into a settlement agreement and transaction with Intact Insurance Company to resolve the matter out of court. Whereas it is in the best interest of the city to resolve this matter, I move that the City of Westmount agree to settle the legal proceedings brought by Intact Insurance Company against the City of Westmount in Court of Quebec, file number 500-22-270022-216, that the City of Westmount execute the out-of-court settlement, release, and transaction, that the Director of Legal Services or the Assistant Director of Legal Services, in his absence, be authorized to sign for and on behalf of the City of Westmount said release and transaction.
Thank you very much. A seconder on this, Councillor Peart. Similar details to the first claim. So all in favor? Aye. Carried. Item number 20, tabling of the Planning Advisory Committee minutes, May 2023. Councillor Peart.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que le Conseil prenne acte et accepte le dépôt des procès-verbal de l'Assemblée régulière du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme, le CCU, de mai 2023, tenu les 16 mai et 18 mai 2023.
Merci beaucoup. Councillor Gallery will second. Anything of note?
This is our typical deposit of our monthly minutes.
All in favor? Carried. Item 21 is again Councillor Peart, tabling of the Planning Advisory Committee minutes, minor exemption.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. Je propose que le Conseil prenne acte et accepte le dépôt du procès-verbal de l'Assemblée spéciale du Comité consultatif d'urbanisme, le CCI, portant sur les demandes de dérogation mineure tenues le 16 mai 2023.
Merci beaucoup. Councillor Gallery will second. Do you want to comment on this?
This one is slightly different from the previous one in that this meeting was specifically to do with a minor derogation. Minor exemption, délégation mineure.
Perfect. Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Item 22 again is Councillor Peart. Approbation des plans d'implémentation et d'intégration architecturale.
Merci, Madame la mairesse. I will dispense with the whereases. I move that the Municipal Council act on the recommendations of the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC, as set out in the minutes of the regular meeting of May 2023, and adopt for each of them the site planning and architectural integration programs, conditions for the issuance of a permit, as listed in items CCU 23-05.02, CCU 23-05.03, CCU 23-05.06, CCU 23-05.08 to CCU 23-05.12, CCU 23-05.15, CCU 23-05.17, CCU 23-05.18, CCU 23-05.20, CCU 23-05.25, and CCU 23-05.27 of the agenda of said meeting held on May 16th and May 17th of 2023.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gallery will second that one. Any particular files you want to point out? Beyond mine?
None beyond your, I mean, you have your patio door in your backyard for sure, and just a lot of smaller files.
Windows and doors.
Windows and doors. For those not familiar with this process, each one of these items refers back to the earlier agenda item for the meeting minutes, the PV, and so that's where you can cross-reference each one of these items versus the item that was listed previously.
Thank you very much. So seconded by Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Carried. Item number 23, minor exemption application, 398 Roslyn Avenue. Again is Councillor Peart.
Thank you, Madame la mairesse. Again, dispense, nope, sorry, I will do the whereases because this is a minor exemption, and minor exemptions are
meant to be exemptions.
Meant to be exemptions and are particular to each application. Whereas the City of Westmount's bylaw 1576 on minor exemptions was adopted on September 20th of 2021, whereas a minor exemption can only be granted if the application of the zoning or subdivision bylaw would cause serious prejudice to the person requesting it. Whereas an exemption may be granted if it does not hinder the owners of neighboring properties in the enjoyment of their right of ownership, or if it does not exacerbate safety or public health risk or affect the quality of the environment or general well-being. Whereas a minor exemption must respect the objectives of the City of Westmount's master plan, whereas a minor exemption application aims to regularize a non-conforming situation with respect to the front building line of the main building located at a distance of 16.7 feet, 5.09 meters. Whereas the distance of the front building line from the main building does not comply with bylaw 352 concerning building lines in effect at the time that main building was built in 1921, which makes it impossible to recognize an acquired right. Whereas the distance from the front building line from the main building does not comply with the provisions of Division 5.2 of Zoning Bylaw 1303, in effect at the time the minor exemption application was submitted, which stipulates that the building line on both sides of Roslyn Avenue from de Maisonneuve Boulevard to the north city limits is set at 17 feet, 5.18 meters. Whereas the minor exemption application aims to allow for the distance of the front building line from the main building line to be maintained at 16.7 feet, 5.09 meters, as measured by land surveyor Mr. Lawrence E. Rabin in his certificate of location completed on January 10th, 2022, file 38044, minute number 15703, that is 0.30 feet or 0.09 meters, more than the minimum prescribed by Division 5.2 of Zoning Bylaw 1303. Whereas the Planning Advisory Committee is of the opinion that the application of the regulatory provisions referred to in the application has the effect of causing serious prejudice to the applicant, and that the minor exemption will make it possible to regularize the siting of the main building built in 1921. I move that the preamble be an integral part of this resolution, that Council approve the minor exemption application to allow for the distance of the front building line from the main building to be maintained at 16.70 feet, 5.09 meters, as measured by land surveyor Mr. Lawrence E. Rabin in his certificate of location completed on January 10th, 2022, file 38044, minute number 15703, that is 0.30 feet or 0.09 meters, more than the minimum prescribed by Division 5.2 of Zoning Bylaw 1303.
Thank you very much. Seconder will be Councillor Gallery. It's pretty well covered in your whereases, and will have zero impact of change on the streetscape or neighbors.
Right. And a few inches makes the difference here, and that's what forces the request for a minor exemption previously, prior to having this this tool. There wasn't an official way to recognize and to regularize this, and so we would issue letters of tolerance in the past, and those are not the best practice, and this is a far more permanent way of doing things, and the much better way of doing things.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Our last item of business is Councillor D'Amico will move for Councillor Shammy. Item 24.1. Do you have that there, or does Councillor Roux want to move it, if you have it handy? Councillor Aronson will move this one, 24.1, demotion of a management employee number 96093.
Whereas certain errors were noted on the part of employee number 96093, and whereas the employee has been met with management, and whereas the employee has been given the opportunity to be heard, and whereas the Director of Human Resources recommends the employee's demotion, I move that Council demote employee number 96093 to position 1026.
Thank you very much. A seconder will be Councillor Gallery. All in favor? Carried. And that brings an end to that part of the meeting. We now have a second question period. I don't know if we've received any questions online.
No.
Pas de questions en ligne. If there's any more questions in the room. If not, the meeting will be adjourned.
3 years ago this summer, you said that you were going to put the boulevard on the agenda, Do you have an update for us?
Yes, we are going to begin with a public consultation on the redesign, rebuild of the boulevard this year.
When will this was supposed to be done a year and a half ago. Things move very slowly at Westmount City Hall. The street is a mess. The traffic remains unattended. The trucks barrel through. The road cannot even be patched on a temporary basis. I'm not quite sure what Mr. Tellerico does but the road is, when you arrive, as I say, you think you're on the streets of Kabul.
I don't think anyone would agree that the boulevard in Westmount looks like Kabul, so we won't make that comparison. But there will be a public consultation that will happen where we would welcome your input as a resident of the street, but also all residents of the area. It is a very busy road. It's always been a very busy road.
And why have you never addressed that?
Because I have a very, very long list of infrastructure projects I've had, and I'd have a lot more people. Councillor Kez would attest that the Dorchester needs to be done, and everybody who lives around Sherbrooke would like Sherbrooke Street to be done. Okay, and we know how you feel about the boulevard,
the boulevard
and Claremont.
Boulevard, and yes, and the reason why we're not doing more of these projects is because we spend things like the greenhouse, $6.2 million.
So you've made it very clear that you don't enjoy the greenhouse, but several people do.
No, very few people do. It's not the place you go to, it's the place you want to get from because it's so small. It doesn't really do much to relax you. The boulevard is the most traveled residential street, more so than Dorchester, and Sherbrooke is primarily commercial. So there is no other street in Westmount that is more dangerous for residents with 3 schools on it that gets, and it's only, I think, because I've been writing for 3 years, that no administration, the ones prior to you, have ever dealt with the boulevard. I'm sure the sidewalk on the north side is not even to code. The cars brush my ankles as they take off from the light. The City of Montreal has just put 2 speed bumps in front of St. George's. The cost is probably less than $5,000. Why are we unable to do anything on the boulevard? It took 3 years of writing to get some smiley faces on the boulevard. Do you not, you say you want to make our streets safe after the Forden accident, and then it goes off into a black hole and we see nothing?
Well, I look forward to your input at the public consultation that will happen this year, that will be led with our engineering group as well as our urban design group. And the input from all the residents from the area as well on how we can make design changes to slow the traffic there and make it a road that is got slower traffic on it and wider sidewalks and more pedestrian friendly. That's the goal. There is a very, very long list, and I can assure you this is not the only road that is brought to us constantly.
But it's the busiest. It is the road.
It's not the busiest road.
Other than Sherbrooke, it is the busiest road in Westmount.
So, thank you for your input, and we look forward.
You're very dismissive of people when they don't agree with you, and you can't accept that your administration has let people down, that you have been very slow. In 6 years, how many streets have you repaired?
I don't have the exact number, but I can tell you we've done more infrastructure work than administrations before us.
That's only because nothing was done before, so it's pretty
okay.
hard.
Well, I don't know if
I'd
agree with that.
On zero.
But thank you for your input.
I just want to let you know that I'll be circulating this to the public.
Okay, thank you.
You should be giving it to the city clerk.
Thank you.
Your street was done first, that didn't need to be done, and everybody else can wait.
So, just so the rest of the people in the room, Ms. Kraut has accused me on several occasions. No, sorry, no, that's not how this works. I have the microphone now.
Is this a democracy or a dictatorship?
I'm going to answer the question on this because you've made a very, very serious accusation that while I was mayor, you've made a very serious accusation against me, and that I take very, very seriously.
I didn't make it against you. I asked you, how did your street make it to
And
the first
you were given a very detailed explanation from our engineering team of how those streets are decided.
No.
So thank you for your input.
Okay, provide me with the backup.
This is a question period, not a debate period.
Provide me with the backup.
That was all done. So,
You lie on top of it.
no, I don't. Unacceptable. Mr. Fretz, do you have a question?
Yes, Madam Mayor, John Fretz, 473 Lansdowne. Now, I know there has been some instability regarding the workforce, but just generally speaking, because I look at stuff and I travel around Westmount, can you say, or is it possible to answer, have our hiring of summer personnel for public works, has it maintained or is it less? Do you know what I mean?
You mean in terms of like our parks wardens
yeah,
and
but
things
people
like
worked
that?
on parks, people who say there's all this gravel coming out of a dog run or this. They used to see people actually working, and I don't, it's a personal, observation. I'm just wondering, have we maintained, because I've worked with some of these people. We took out Common Buckthorn during 2 years. We did a
with the
stint.
summit.
So I'm a little bit familiar with Public Works. I like them, and sometimes I talk to them. But I just get the impression that maybe we're not hiring as much as we used to.
We still have the same number of Public Works employees, and we have also increased our patrols with public security in terms of summer students as well. And they're often in the parks. Largely, they do the 3 areas: Summit, KGP, and Westmount Park. So that's increased over the past couple years. I guess you're not seeing them as much at the Summit. Is that where you're not seeing them as much?
No,
Or just
no,
in all
I
parks
think that
generally?
they work discreetly and very effectively at Summit Woods. And as I say, I am in touch with that department through our contacts that we formulated with SWAC and maintained over the years. So, no, but it just seemed to me that when I look at, I hate to use the word deterioration, I'm just wondering if we are really hiring the same number of people that we used to. But anyway, okay, so that's fine.
Yeah, so we do, there were some positions that were vacant that we're also experiencing the shortage in the workforce. So some of those positions were vacant, yeah.
Okay.
But our parks wardens, which are some of the people that you have worked with as well, are in place. But you're going to see some improvements in KGP this summer in terms of the path that's getting done, and some upgrades there.
Okay, that's great.
The walking path.
Yeah, as a follow-up to that, I've noticed the people in blue, the parks, are they, now I don't know if they are able to give out tickets, but I mean, I welcome anything like that. Could we have a sign, like 1 or 2, to have a more permanent presence at Summit Woods? You know what I mean? We've got them in the Westmount Park.
Yeah.
Let's have one up, because it gets really busy up there and sometimes a little fractious. And yes, I mean, I have personally seen people from public security up there. We go up there bird watching, and we see Public Works doing a round early in the morning. But I'm just saying, as a presence, would that be a good idea to have a personnel like that?
I think it's a great idea. Mr. McBain is nodding as well in agreement there. So we will discuss, and in terms of having them up more at Summit Woods as well.
Great.
Especially now that it's June 15th, right? So it's going to get busier at Summit Woods again.
Yeah,
Not during the day,
here we
but
go.
certainly till 10 and then after 5.
Great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? No? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.